Today I'm going to talk about the top 5 reasons why Buckeye, Arizona is better than Orange County, California. Some of you may know that in June of 2021, we were forced to flee California because of some laws that went into effect, which meant that our boys, we had 2 teenage boys at the time, were not going to be able to attend high school. And so we had a very short window of time that we had to basically pick up and leave our house that we had, everything, our life that we had spent decades building. We had to pick up and leave. And I did another video about that before. I did another live video about that a couple months ago. I will link that in the show notes below, but it is the only other, at this point, it's the only other live video that I've done. I'm shooting this live because I shot that one live. So I wanted to do this one live, and so I could have that in a playlist. So you can go, and if you're interested in the backstory and everything that we went through, and just, the differences, or I talked a little bit about our kids. There's just different things that I talked about in that video that I'm going to talk about here tonight. And if you're new here, I'm Vanessa. This is my channel, Adventures in Happiness, where I introduce you to people, tools, and ideas to empower and inspire you to take radical responsibility for your own life and happiness. So it was really hard for me to narrow this down to 5 things, but today I'm going to talk about, and each of these could be their own video, really. But today I'm going to just talk about the people and community, the weather, the lifestyle, the population and infrastructure, and the cost of living. To me, those are the things that I notice, and I'm just freshly back from a trip to Orange County this past week. I went to see my grandma for her 96th birthday. And so there was just some things that were really fresh on my mind. I've also been talking to a girl from Orange County who contacted me off of one of the leaving California pages or moving to Arizona pages, I don't know, and was asking me some questions about specifically where I live here in Verrado, which I'm going to talk about. But they are actually going to move here. She ended up putting an offer, or I don't know how that works with a new build, but they bought a new build and are going to be moving here from Orange County in December. So I'm really excited about it. I've never spoken, or we did speak on the phone. Actually, we did speak on the phone, but we've mainly been texting, and it really helps me when I know what she's going through. I know what that's like. I know how nerve-wracking it is to make such a huge, huge decision. She has a lot of things that she's leaving, the business and things like that, in Orange County. And I know that that is a really difficult thing to do. And it's so scary, but let me just tell you, it is the absolute best thing that we did for our family. I talked about in the first video that I did. And I think it's really interesting. Like, when I was preparing this, I've been preparing this video all week. So I have a lot of notes. I have a lot of different, just stats and things, because I think that's interesting. And I'm going to be referring to those probably a lot, so I stay on topic, so my dad doesn't tell me that I talk too much, and I need to figure out how to shorten my videos. And also, I will tell you, I am learning how to do YouTube the right way, which is so different than the way that I like to do videos. So I'm going to get into this right now. I'm going to read, like, I have notes, and so I try to stay on topic, but bear with me, and thank you for your grace in dealing with me while I learn how to do this. I have a new camera, and let me tell you, if you are 100 years old like me, I don't suggest that you get a camera. This camera is so much different than the camera on my laptop. So you can see, like, every line and wrinkle, but okay, I'm going to deal with that. Anyway, okay. So we moved here to Verrado, which is I consider it a city, but it's actually a master planned community of 30,000 people within the city of Buckeye, Arizona. And if you've never heard of Buckeye, I hadn't either, and it's taken me a long I love Buckeye now, but it's taken me a long time. Like I'm moving to Buckeye, Arizona. It's taken me a long time to get used to that, but I absolutely I love Buckeye. So anyways, it's a master plan community here, and I guess I consider it a town because I only thought it had 20,000 people. It actually has 30,000 people. Part of my stats that I learned as I was preparing for this. And if you've never heard of Buckeye, in 2020, Buckeye was the number one fastest growing city in the United States. In 2022, it came in at number 5, and it is growing so rapidly. The city here is just, even in the 2 years that we've been here, the changes that we have seen are unbelievable. We just got a new Costco, like right off the 10 freeway, right here at Verrado Way, brand new Costco. And that kind of bummed me out actually. I'm a small town girl now. Anyway, so Verrado is it's such a different, it's a community. And I didn't know that that's what I was looking for when we moved here. I didn't know what I was getting myself into at all, but I am so glad that we ended up here. And I thank my lucky stars for it all the time. I did a post somewhere and at some point recently and said something like, or actually somebody said to me, what do you mean you moved to Arizona and it doesn't look like Arizona? Why are you happy about that? And I'm like, well, I don't know how I ended up in Verrado of all, like, I don't even know how I ended up here truly, but Verrado is just so different. There's trees and trails, and it really looks a lot like Orange County. It reminds me kind of Santa Barbara. There's just different things. The architecture is so beautiful. They put so much, effort into the buildings and the structures and how all of that looks. And there's just a lot of style and design here. So I was so happy that we ended up here. And one of the things that I noticed, the reason why I want to start off with the people and community as being number one, is that is the thing that when we came here for our very quick scouting trip, we came like 2 days, we came over a weekend. That's really all the time we had to check it out before we had to move. And that was the number one thing that I just was so blown away by. And it is to this day, the thing that I love most about Arizona. There's a lot to love, but I love most about Arizona is the people. People were so friendly and welcoming and wanted to help us. And looking back on that time, we were in such a state of panic. I was just we were stressed out of our minds. And the fact that people were so gracious to us when we were in that, like, just frantic, crazy, it's another thing I'm going to talk about too, because it's just so different here. That's one of the things I'm going to get into with lifestyle. But it's just so different than Orange County, right? It's a lot slower. And even though that's still so much of just who my personality, I talk fast and I still like to work all the time. There's such a more slower pace here. And so I think that is one of the things that just affects people. People just aren't all stressed out like you are in Orange County. And I remember this guy, one of the things that people will say, or I hear people say on these different community posts on Facebook, if you are looking to move from California or move to Arizona, there are several different Facebook groups. There's Leaving California, there's a Moving to Arizona page, there's California to Arizona. I mean, there's a lot of different pages. And one of the things that I hear people talk about, and it's actually not particular to Arizona, but one of the things I hear people say is, oh, do people hate Californians, or, are people rude to you? And I can tell you we have never had that experience. None of us. People have been nothing but sweet and welcoming to us. And I can remember one guy just saying at the gas station that first weekend we came, he was like really stoked that we were moving here and bringing our dollars to their economy. So they really have a different way of thinking about it. I thought that was a really forward way of thinking about it. And, I guess also, if you're a jerk and if you are like California-ing Arizona or anywhere you move to, people probably aren't going to take very kindly to that. So that is another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'll talk about that at the end of this. But really, basically, you're moving here for a reason, or you're moving away from wherever you are for a reason. And just remember that, because here is not there. And it took me a long time to get used to that. I think one of the things, because we didn't want to move, I did want to move, but ultimately it didn't end up the way it came down. It wasn't our decision. And I think that was probably, I probably had a lot more emotions around that, negative emotions actually around that, than maybe someone who wants to move and it was their choice. I didn't feel like it was our choice. I felt like we were kicked out of California, which is the title of my first live video I did on here. And we had to go and we couldn't stay. And even at that time, I knew that it had to happen that way, because we would have never left our life. We were set in Orange County and we moved here, and we've had to start completely over. And no, that's not easy, but it has been worth it. Another thing, the kids here are just different. And I think if you're moving with kids or moving for your kids, this is one of the things that I didn't even realize was going to happen. I just wanted our kids to be able to go to school. I could not homeschool them or have them do online learning anymore. We had just come out of the pandemic when I actually probably wasn't even it really wasn't. It was just the tail end of the shutdown when we moved here, but there was no way that I was going to be able to homeschool. My youngest son was going to be a freshman. And so all I wanted to do was get them in school. I wanted to get them in school. And we picked this area specifically because of the high school. So I talked a little bit about that on the first video I did, but I didn't know how very different the kids were going to be here and how just normal they are. I know in Orange County, just people, and it's people in general. Like, I remember I would be going out for walks and I cannot pass someone without saying hello to them. That is just something that's in my DNA. Like, I have to say hello to you. And people would freak out if, like, I'm out on a walk and somebody's coming towards me and I say hello, like they just like don't even know what to do. And then during the pandemic, especially, to have people like jump across the street and be like so, scared of you, that was just such a weird thing. And it was so different here. I could talk a lot about that. I'm going to try to stay on my notes because I didn't make notes about how different it was here. But it was very, very different here, even when we came here in 2021. And I can remember going to the boys, like the high school, like before the high school opened, the auditorium, and having all the new parents in there, and everybody was just in there, like all next to each other. And it was just such a trip because we had basically been so isolated for such a long period of time. And to just have everybody being around us, like acting so normal, it was really, really trippy. But even the kids, like the younger kids, sometimes I work at the concession stand and at the football games. And so there'll be high school kids that come in, or younger kids that can, come up to the window, and they're so polite and they can hold a conversation, and they're just not fake and not plastic, and just, all that stuff, all that Orange County stuff that everybody's like compares each other to in Orange County, it just doesn't exist here. And that is a really, really good thing to have that, because your kids will be very grounded. It is a different experience, and it is not something that I knew was going to happen before we came here. But it's like the influencer thing is just it's not a thing here. It's just not. Everybody's not into like, what's your, online thing or trying to be an influencer or anything like that. So, oh, and here's the most important part of this, like about the people. Now, people are pretty crazy drivers here. I hear people say that, but I think compared to Orange County, there's nothing worse than the drivers there. In fact, so I have never been horned and I've never been flipped off here ever. In the 2 years and 4 months that I've lived here, I've never had that happen. In Orange County, that was like a daily occurrence. One of those things or both would happen almost every single day. And just last week when I was driving into Orange County, take the 10, I was in Redlands and I had a pretty good drive. I left on a Sunday, I had a pretty good drive. But then, when you get into the city over there, things start getting backed up because that's the way it is all the time. And it was just like immediately, oh my God, I'm annoyed and people are annoyed and I'm getting cut off. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I used to live like this all the time. Like this was my life. And I'm telling you, once you don't live like that anymore, it is when you go back, you'll ask yourself, like, how did I even do this? And when I lived in Orange County, I didn't even have that long of a commute. I mean, I had it all worked out where I barely had to take the freeway. Actually, I took the toll road and I worked down on Fashion Island and I really never got caught in actual bumper to bumper traffic, but still dealing with people at stoplights and getting cut off and all that stuff and having people talk on their phones and get stuck at stoplights and all that stuff. Like that is just such an Orange County thing. We don't have that here. Now, granted, I don't commute into Phoenix. If you have to take the 10 freeway, the 10 freeway sucks, but even the traffic, like around the traffic patterns is different here. It's just much shorter window around like rush hour and things like that, because I know we have had to go to the other side of the valley for my son's football games. And if we were in Orange County and had to go that far of a distance, we'd have to leave at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And we only have to leave like, 15 minutes, allow for like a 15 more minutes of time than we would. And we have yet to really get stuck in a traffic jam, unless there's an accident or something. So the people in community are the number one reason. Okay. Number two, the weather. Now I know a lot of people think that Orange County's weather is better. Like Orange County has the best weather. And I was hung up on that for a long time, probably 2 years of planning that we did before we ultimately moved here. I was researching all the different places so I could find a place with weather comparable to Orange County. Now, we lived in South County. We lived in Laguna Hills. We had a beautiful ocean breeze that we left our windows open 24/7, pretty much year round. And we had really beautiful weather most of the time, but it is overcast there. And that's something that I noticed when I was just back home, or when I consider here my home, by the way. But when I was just back in Orange County, I just noticed that morning, like socked in, cloudy, like you never know if it's overcast when you wake up in the morning, and you don't know if it's going to be like that all day or if it's going to burn off towards the afternoon. And I'll tell you, we rarely have cloudy days here. In fact, when we first moved, it rained. We had a lot of monsoons, and that was amazing. It didn't rain so much this past summer. Actually, I don't think every single storm has probably passed us. I think it's rained here once, which is a bummer. But the weather in Orange County isn't as great as you think it is once you're out of there. And I've heard other people talk about that too on the Leaving California groups, that you kind of it's like the weather is like a Kool-Aid for California. You think you have it really great, but actually, I think the weather here, like in general, is better. Now, another thing that you cannot compare here to there is the temperature. So yes, it does get hot. And yeah, especially like we lived through the summer, and Yeah. There are 3 months that it is absolutely unbearable. And in a perfect world, and if you have the opportunity to have a house here and a house somewhere else, like be a snowbird or something, that would be ideal. That's on my vision board. I mean, if we could leave during the summer, during the hottest months, that would be amazing. But we have to just suffer through it. And the way that we think of it and the way that I deal with it is that I don't do snow. And so I just remember being like, probably in June, we had a really nice long spring, and it took a long time for it to get really hot here. In fact, we were like joking, thinking, oh my gosh, is this how it's going to be? It's going to be like this all the time. Are we going to have a really mild summer? And, then it ended up being like torture. It was a really hard summer, but we think of it like you would if you were living in, South Dakota and you had to deal with blizzards and be inside all winter long. Now, the nice thing about living somewhere like this is that we are not trapped inside for 24 hours for weeks on end. We can go outside in the evenings, and if you have a pool, or you can go swimming and you can still enjoy outdoor activities in the evening. There's a very short period of time where it never cools off and it's really hot. But that is a really small price to pay for the overall weather that you get here. It is just absolutely beautiful. And the dry heat, there is a huge difference between dry heat and humidity. So another thing, you cannot look at the temperature on the thermometer. This is something that I still trip out about. You cannot look at the temperature on the thermometer and have it, especially if you're from Orange County, because 100 degrees here is amazing. It's perfection. 100 degrees in Orange County is horrendous. Horrendous. And because of the humidity too, it makes it even more unbearable. But I can remember having days when we were in August when we lived in Orange County, and it was just like, when it was 100, it was just so miserable. So 100 here is really nice. But the funny thing is, so like 78 here is actually chilly, and 78 in Orange County is perfect. Like, that is perfect weather. So it's really weird how you can't go by what the temperature says. But if you're scared of Arizona because of the heat, I'm telling you, now that we've lived here and we've gotten to compare weather everywhere all year long, we have, both my husband and I, my husband's super into the weather. We're always looking at weather in all of the different places, not only in Orange County, but in the different places that we had considered moving to, like Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Idaho, Nevada, all those different places. And, even now I'm recording this in mid-October, and there are places where it's already, it's turning into winter. So, or there's storms. I know I have a friend in Tennessee, and it's rainy and cold in Tennessee. So, and here in Arizona, we are just now entering the promised land as far as the weather goes. We are entering in the beautiful season. And I will say one more thing about the weather before I switch to my next topic. I was so surprised when we moved here, and we moved here on the hottest day of the year. It was June 18th, 2021, is 118 degrees. And my neighbor, who was from Huntington Beach, told me that it actually got cold here. And I could not believe her. I was like, Linda, there is no way. I can't even imagine that it gets cold here. And actually, it does. It gets really cold here. So, like when I told you 78 is chilly, when it starts getting lower than that, like 78, if you're out in the evening and there's a breeze, you actually do. You need a sweatshirt. You need a little jacket. You really do. So it gets very cold here. So if you're moving here from Orange County and thinking that it's going to be hot, don't throw away your winter clothes. You're going to need them. I know some people who moved from Oregon who actually did that. They got rid of all of their winter clothes, and then they had to go out and buy all new stuff because they didn't think it could be that cold here. But it does. It gets really cold here. So, the third thing I wanted to talk about is lifestyle, and this kind of goes in because of the weather. The lifestyle is just so different here. Now, the lifestyle in Orange County is go 100 miles an hour, work all the time, and here, probably because like a large part of it because of the weather, we get to be outside and do outside things almost year round, except for those few months where it's really unbearably hot. And in Verrado here, this is a golf cart community. So a lot of people have golf carts here. I don't have one yet, it's still on my vision board. But it's so fun because so many people in the morning are taking their kids to school in their golf carts. And a couple times a year, we have different activities, parades specifically. There's one at 4th of July. There's one coming up at for Christmas. Everybody decorates their golf carts and goes, like on a parade route through our community. And it's just so fun. And I will say, if you're into Halloween, right now is such an incredible time to visit Verrado because people love to decorate for Halloween here. And there's actually, like, you can go on a little tour and go and see the different houses. There's a contest for decorating your house, and it's kind of mind-blowing how people get into that, and they do that for Christmas too. So if you are into Halloween, definitely come and check it out, what we have to offer. Arizona reminds me so much of California during the 80s, and especially the way that it is at Halloween and how everybody's so into it, and the trick-or-treating and the millions of kids. Uh, Someone told me in the downtown area that they spent like $1,000 on candy, and that's like that is how much candy they go through in one night on Halloween, and they run out. It's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Where we lived in Laguna Hills, it was dark, and we had no trick-or-treaters in my neighborhood at all. So anyway, that is a fun thing. If you're into Halloween, come and check that out. Also here we have 21. This is getting into my statistics. Verrado in particular, and this is another thing I really didn't know anything about before we moved here. We have over 21 miles of bike paths, walking paths, hiking trails, and there are over 75 parks, numerous playgrounds, and my most favorite is the dog park just down the street from my house, where we have an informal yappy hour almost every evening. There's a group of us that meet over there. We could not go during the summer when it was really hot, and we're just now starting to get back in the swing of going over there in the evenings and, having our dogs have their time together. And then we have a little group of us that, we get to socialize. We've met a little group of friends, and that is really, really fun. And all that stuff is free. It comes with living in the community. That's one of the things that I really didn't know that I wanted before I moved here. And it's one of the best things. Like, I didn't realize, in fact, I was like, I don't want to live in the Irvine company, I don't want to live like that. But it's not like that. It's not like the Irvine company. And the sense of community that we have here and the different events that we have here, there's concerts, there's live music, especially right now as things are cooling off. There was live music today or yesterday. Actually, there was an event down at the Center on Main with pumpkins and live music and things like that. And sorry, I'm just getting used to using a mic. And so there's a lot of different activities, and I think having a community has been really helpful for us because, as my friend said today, she's like, yeah, it's like having a cushion, because it ended up being a lot more difficult of a transition for us to move here, where we didn't know anybody. We didn't know anybody, and we didn't really have any friends when we moved here. And it was a really isolating experience. And to have that sense of community around you is another thing that is just It's you have to take that into consideration. Like if you're thinking, I know a lot of people like to have like a homestead and, want property and land and things like that. But if you have kids, especially little kids, this is a great community for that. There are so many activities. It's very family oriented here in Verrado. So, I will say, because we don't have that cutthroat energy here, like in Orange County, one of the things that I had to get used to was, I'm used to it now. I like it now, actually. But there's not that like frantic, everything's not this frantic pace, which consequently means sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get things. And I can remember the first weekend we moved here on a Friday. It was Sunday morning. I could not find a place to get breakfast. I was just like so used to having all my places in Orange County that I knew where I could go and pick this up or pick that up. I didn't know where to go. I ended up going to this golf course. They had a restaurant there and I picked up breakfast and it took forever. I drove all the way over there and I sat and I waited and I waited and I waited. And, it's just a different pace here. And so there's a good side of that. But if you're coming from somewhere like Orange County, I want to warn you that that is going to be something that you're going to have to get used to. It's almost like a detox. It's going from 150 miles an hour to like 20 miles an hour. And your nervous system is going to thank you for that eventually. But initially, it's super annoying. It's really annoying. Things just move slower here. So, but that's funny because that brings me in to my next topic, though, which is population and infrastructure. And so even though certain things may move slower, other things, they have much more dialed in here. And the story that I like to tell the most about this, because I think it's just so telling, was the first day that we moved here. We had been going back and forth for a month, moving our stuff. We had come a couple weekends. And so we had this rental. We had a rental before we bought our house. And at the rental, there were trash cans. And they had been there all month long. But the day that we moved, it was a Friday, the day that we moved, our trash cans were gone. Now, when you move, you need trash cans. Got all the packing material and everything like that. So I get on the phone. Now, mind you, this is a Friday afternoon. I get on the phone. I call the waste management company. And in 40 minutes, I had new trash cans delivered. You guys, I wouldn't even have gotten through on the phone to someone in 40 minutes in Orange County, let alone knowing how long would it even take to get trash cans delivered. I mean, it's that sort of thing that just right away I was so tripped out about, because I was like, that would have never happened in Orange County. And it's an impossibility. And so, one of the reasons why, though, California and Orange County, they're too far out of control to even be able to bring it back. There's just too many people and the infrastructure is not there to support it. There's not money there to support. Well, there is money there, but your state of California is doing other things with your money to support fixing the infrastructure of all the different problems that they have in Orange County. That's just one simple, small, little example. But I wanted to talk to you and give you some statistics about the population, and hopefully that will help you see just what a huge difference it is. So these are numbers from 2021, but in California, the population was 39.24 million. In Orange County, the population is 3.17 million people. That means 13% of the state live in Orange County. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of people. Now, by contrast, in 2021, Arizona as a whole had 7.3 3 million people. So Orange County is half the size of the whole entire state of Arizona. That is crazy when you think about it. That small perimeter is half the size of our entire state. 5.5 times less than the population of California. And Verrado in our city, the actual number in 2021 was 32,418, which blows me away because I thought it was only 20,000. But anyway, so that's why it's like a city. But Buckeye in 2021 had 101,315. So compared to Orange County with 3.17 million, and you go to Buckeye with 101,000. I mean, I didn't look up the stats for Laguna Hills. I should have, but I don't know how many the population there is. But the point is that there's just so many people there to be able to properly handle things. That's which is why everything takes so long. And I think another one of the things that I think is the biggest difference that I saw is that Arizona seems, and this has been across the board in everything that in any different experience that I've had in dealing with any kind of from the high school or any kind of bureaucracy, people they try to seem excuse me, they try to make it as simple as possible, or they try to like actually solve your problem. Where in California, I feel like they try to make things as difficult as possible, and then they want to make sure that they don't solve your problem. That has been my personal experience in dealing with the state of California. You guys probably have your own examples of different, just dealing with things in California is so annoying. Now, I will say, I'm remembering as I'm talking, I have Cox communication here. I have Cox cable here, just like I did in Orange County. And Cox customer service sucks here, just like it did in Orange County. Not every area has to have Cox. Unfortunately, in my area, that's all we have is Cox. That's the only thing that's available. But anyway, one of the differences, and this just is crazy too, here we have, instead of having just like a DMV office, like in California, you guys know what a nightmare it is to go to the DMV in California, right? I used to live right by the DMV in Laguna Hills, and there was always a line like out and around the building, like hundreds of people always. And they'd camp out there at like 6 a.m. to try to get in line. It's always like that. Well, here in Arizona, we have these little independent offices that are not part of the motor vehicles, but they're called the MVD actually. They're actually called the motor vehicle department, but they're not part of that's confusing, but they're a standalone office and they can do everything except I don't think you can get your driver's license there, but that's where you go and handle like your car registration. Or we went and got our driver's license there and our registration when we moved here. But I mean like your initial, like when you first get your driver's license, I don't think you can get it there, but they can do basically everything else. And I just had to stop at the DMV in Blythe on my way home from California because I am still trying to get my title from the state of California. And I cannot or could not get them to allow me to do that by mail. I called and it was just one thing after another. And so anyways, I stopped by there. Super easy to go and run into the Blythe DMV. I probably wasn't even there 15 minutes, pay my $25, and hopefully in 8 to 10 weeks, my title is going to show up. Now, that is a side note for any of you moving and transferring your title. I'm sure it's like this in all the other states, no matter where you go. Make sure when you register your car that you change the title at the same time you change your registration. I didn't know there was a separate box I was supposed to check, so that didn't happen on either of our cars. And we still had owed on our cars. Our cars weren't ours. Mine was not paid off when we moved here. But when I paid, so when I paid it off, which was over a year ago, I have been trying this long to get my title from the state of California. So make sure you do that when you move. When you change your title. or when you change your registration, and then be prepared to get 100 letters, no matter what, from the state of California, no matter if you change your address or, you know, try to extricate yourself from their system, you will still continue to get notices from the DMV that you will have to write on and send back that you don't live there and your car's no longer registered there. And that's just the way it is. That happens to all of us. It is, make sure you look into that and make sure that you do everything right to try to get out of their system, because I have heard horror stories about them coming and attaching the people's bank accounts and things like that for unpaid registration fees when someone's already moved. Another thing, I registered my car. My registration was due in May, but I knew we were moving, so I paid it thinking I could get a refund. So I paid like $400 and there's no refund. There's no refund. So I basically wasted $400. There's a workaround around that, but I didn't know that at the time. So many lessons learned with the DMV and just the difference of dealing with the infrastructure here in Arizona. It's just different. It's easier. They seem to have things figured out. It seems like people are smarter. No, not everything's better. I mean, people that live here complain about like road construction and different, things. But another difference is they actually, when they work on something, they actually fix it, which is another thing about Orange County that I can't understand. Well, I can't understand. I know that there's a reason behind this, a purposeful reason behind this, but the 5 freeway in Orange County and South Orange County has been torn up for like 10 years. And I just don't understand why they wouldn't just tear up a small section and fix that section, and then move down and tear up a small section and fix that section, instead of tearing up the entire freeway like they do and having none of it fixed. But obviously, I think there's some corruption involved in that, and people do that to guarantee themselves and their company a lifetime of future employment. So they always have work. It's not like that. Things actually get done here. And if you're moving from Orange County, it will be a breeze. You will totally enjoy the difference. Okay, so that's that. Where am I? I had these pages. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the cost of living. Now, when we were living in Orange County, we basically lived to work, or work to live. Work to live. What is that? We lived to work. All we did was work. We could never, it seemed like we never could get our head above water. Now, we've always lived below our means. We both had really good paying jobs, but even still, we were just completely mentally and physically taxed all the time. You guys know what it takes to survive in Orange County. There's just that cutthroat energy. Working is just, both of us had very high stress, high pressure jobs that we could not take time off or be away from. And that just added to just the complete breakdown of what we were going through mentally, physically, spiritually. My husband had to quit his job. He was doing plumbing construction and quit his job before we moved here to help us get ready for the move. And then here, he just cannot do that job in Arizona, but it was time for him to change anyway. So luckily we sold our house in 2021 at the height of the market. So that has helped us have a cushion in moving. But it's so different moving here, and just the pace of life and is different. Now, certain things, I think food is more expensive here for some reason. Food is more expensive here than it is in California. And gas is less expensive. I just paid $5.69 a gallon in Lake Forest, and here it's like $4.50. When we moved here, it was like $2.50, and I think it was probably $4.50 in Orange County. But just like I said, like it takes some getting used to, like going from 150 miles an hour to cruising at 20 miles an hour. So the that just like goes along with just it's just so different. The cost of living, like there's not that whole like keeping up with the Joneses thing. I mean, maybe some people are like that, but we knew when we were moving that we wanted to change our lifestyle, that we didn't want to live like that anymore. So that was one of the things that we made sure that we didn't go buy this big baller house or everything. We wanted to keep our expenses really low. Our expenses in Orange County were as low as we could have them there. We had bought our house, 20 years ago or something. And so our mortgage was relatively low. But I think that even the housing, like the house that we have here, uh, would we would have never been able to afford this house here in Orange County ever. I don't actually think that even though we were making over six figures together, I don't know that we would have ever even been able to afford like a real house in Orange County. We lived in a townhouse or like a condo, which was fine. I loved my house, never would have sold it unless we were forced to leave. But we have an actual really beautiful, amazing house here. And we just would have never been able to have a house like this. A house like this would probably have cost $1 million in Orange County. And, so I was working remotely when we moved here, and which helped. So it's not like I had to come here and get a job, but so I could support us. But I did quit my job in December of 2022. And so we basically started over twice. We started over twice in the last 2 years. We started over by moving, and I'm starting over again by, having my own business, and just, I don't want to live like that anymore. And so overall, gas is less expensive. Housing is less expensive. Rent is less expensive. Still expensive though. I mean, I don't know. Less expensive than Orange County, definitely less expensive than Orange County. But I still think rent is just astronomical, no matter where you are. I mean, I see little posts from my hometown up in the sticks of California, and it is bananas how expensive rent is. But I think overall, the best advice I can give you is, if you are moving, is to remember why you are moving. And because it's going to be hard. It's going to be different. But even before you leave, probably a good thing to do would be to write down the things of what you are leaving in Orange County, and the things that or wherever you're from, and the things that you don't like about where you're living. So you can remember that when you're having a hard time adjusting to a new place. Because I will tell you, just like your ex, any of your exes, you're going to start romanticizing about Orange County once you move. I just said this a little while ago. My husband was watching, some kind of game, some kind of sports game, and they showed like Santa Monica. And I said, why is it that they make Southern California look so beautiful? They can make it look so beautiful on TV, but the reality, like if you're on the ground in Santa Monica, it doesn't look like that. It's not as beautiful. And that's what you're going to do when you try to move away from Orange County. You're going to start getting really sad, and you just need to remember why you're leaving, and don't California, Arizona, because there will come a time, and it may take a little while, but there's going to come a time that you will love and appreciate Arizona and the differences that it has, that it isn't Orange County. I don't even go back. I very rarely go back to Orange County anymore. I really thought I would be going back like once a month. I don't go back there. And most people, once you move and you're away from there, it is really, really hard to go back. It's just, you get to really see how bad it is. It actually gets worse every time I go back. How bad it is, and how different it is there, and how nice it is to not live there anymore. So it probably took us about 2 years to completely transition into living here. But I think we're acclimated. I'm now calling Arizona my home. So I would say that I'm acclimated. Our kids are doing phenomenal here. And so if you're thinking about moving, do it. do it. You only live once, and it's going to end up being the best thing that you can do for not only your family, but for your kids and for your life in general. It really, truly is. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here with me live tonight. And if you want to work one-on-one with me or need one-on-one personal assistance, please visit me on my website. I'll link that in the show notes. Have a good night, and I'll see you in Arizona. Come visit. Bye.